All right, we have no time to waste. Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, is dodging and weaving questions about Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and these new emails that we received just this morning from the House Oversight Committee, showing that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were closer than any of us could have imagined. I mean, we've imagined some terrible, terrible things, but Jeffrey Epstein himself, in emails to journalist Michael Wolff, was saying that Trump had spent hours with some of the victims. Jeffrey Epstein had leverage over Trump that he was talking about well into Donald Trump's first term before Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. If you believe that. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein died in 2019 under Trump, and he was just emailing about how he had leverage over Trump right before that. But I digress. Let's jump into Karoline Leavitt and Donald Trump's statements on this new Epstein drop. Before we do, I just want to start off with how Karoline Leavitt opened off the press conference. She immediately started talking about how our CPI, our Consumer Price Index information, is going to be damaged. It's been damaged. I think this is really important to talk about because we are months behind on getting unemployment data and certain economic data on inflation because the admin is hiding it for political purposes. And now she's saying that it's damaged, or it's going to be damaged for more months to come. This is scary stuff.
Economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period.
I mean, someone responded, this is really dangerous rhetoric. When you're undermining the nation's statistical agencies on economic data because you don't like how the numbers are coming out, that means you're destroying the public's trust. And it's exactly what authoritarians do. I mean, they said it better than I could. In this clip, Karoline Leavitt is then asked about transparency regarding the Epstein files. I'm going to play the clip.
Given your interest in transparency, Karoline, why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress?
They're willing to brief members of Congress on why they shouldn't vote for the Epstein files to be released. They're not briefing members of Congress. They're pulling them in to lobby them and pressure them to make sure that the Epstein files aren't released. Just keep in mind, 218 votes is what was necessary for the files to be released. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has spent the past 8 weeks not certifying or swearing in Representative Adelita Grijalva, so they didn't have the 218 votes. Now that they do have the 218 votes, 4 Republicans said, we'll sign on. It's Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, and Lauren Boebert. We don't have to agree with them on everything or even most things, but in this situation, they are doing the right thing. Donald Trump apparently called Nancy Mace and pulled Lauren Boebert into a meeting, not to brief her, but to lobby her not to vote. So Karoline Leavitt is lying.
That members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns? That's a defining factor of transparency.
Nope, Karoline Leavitt says a lot of lies here, but the one big lie is when she says the words, whenever they please. They can sit down whenever they please.
Members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please?
It's not whenever they please. It's the day we're going to reach the 218 vote threshold. Very conveniently, they are pulling Lauren Boebert in to ask her not to vote. It is not what she is claiming, that people can just be pulled in at any time. To continue right here, then Karoline Leavitt tries to spin and dance around the question, did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim? As Jeffrey Epstein himself claimed. Karoline Leavitt then says, these emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that the president did nothing wrong. Is this real life? So remember, one of the emails said from Jeffrey Epstein that Donald Trump had spent hours with one of the victims, presumably Virginia Giuffre, who was groomed out of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago spa. Now, Karoline Leavitt is essentially legitimizing these emails by saying they prove nothing, but they prove that he did nothing wrong. How can both be true at once? Listen.
Thanks for being here, Bev. Ouija.
Thank you, Karoline.
Sure.
I have your statement about the new Epstein emails that have been released by House Democrats. Separate from why you believe the emails were made public, can you address their substance? Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
All right. What an insane word salad. So these emails prove nothing, but they also prove that he did nothing wrong, so they're true. What are in the emails are true. Karoline Leavitt essentially cites them to talk about Virginia Giuffre, but apparently they're not incriminating enough for Trump to be an actual pedophile, so she's okay with spinning and weaving. Does she have the cross around her neck today? I don't think she does. I mean, maybe she does and I just can't see it, but she wears her cross basically every day. She may be feeling a little bit guilty about what she's caught up defending on this specific day. As this press conference was happening, Donald Trump was sending out a slew of tweets. The first one reads, quote, "The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown." Dude, you're losing. You're way underwater on this shutdown. And so many other subjects. Okay, like what? The war in Ukraine, which you haven't ended. Like what? Like affordability, which you just are now paying attention to after you got whooped? Like what? Healthcare, which you don't have a plan on? We are focusing on all of the correct issues. I think the one issue that the Democratic Party has right now is messaging. It's not a lack of healthcare plan. It's not a lack of plan on how to solve the war in Ukraine. It is a messaging gap because we have the ideas. We need help messaging them. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country. I love how this dude makes up numbers. He claims he brought in $18 trillion off of tariffs, so he should be able to easily neutralize that more than 10 times over. But even assuming that we did lose $1.5 trillion, that would be your fault. It's because you couldn't vote for a bill that would have helped extend healthcare subsidies, which, by the way, the economy becomes less productive. We lose more money. More people die when we don't have access to healthcare. It's way more than this $1.5 trillion that he's making up. He then says they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anyone else. Dude, it's not a deflection. It's members of your own party that you are scrambling to get control of. Sometimes I wish I could sit there and not debate Karoline Leavitt, but I wish that the follow-up questions could be a bit more debatey because somebody will throw out a really good question and Karoline will dodge and weave in such a way that you never get a follow-up. For example, in this clip where she's talking about the emails and the emails proving nothing, she says, these people can go sit down with the White House any day and get briefed. But it's not any day. It's today. There is a specific reason it happened today because Donald Trump is hanging on by a thread. He just sent out another tweet while I'm making this video. It reads, in other words, the Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try to deflect from their massive failures, in particular, their most recent one, the shutdown. That's still a Trump failure, and it will be even more of a failure when these subsidies expire and premiums skyrocket. Democrats need to be talking about two things, affordability and Epstein. And I know that sounds incredibly simplistic, but it is. Affordability and Epstein. Two areas where this admin has a fatal flaw, an Achilles heel. I'll leave it there. Drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed for more. Peace out.